Today's episode is brought to you by the Twisted Fork. Eat, drink, and enjoy. Nate, Winkler, and Champ Jaxon, welcome to the show, guys.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, I'm really happy to have you guys here because I think I first met you both a couple of years ago at the Sandbar in Inglewood. Mm-hmm. You guys were doing the day show, and we were doing the evening show, and our paths crossed. And you had a nice crowd there of people. And me and my buddies saw you perform. We were so impressed. We're like, damn, we have to follow this guy. It's like everyone's expectations are just going to go down. Yeah. But anyway, welcome to the show.
Thanks.
So for those who don't know, you are a wonderful guitar player. You have some CDs that are out. Mm-hmm. And during the show, we'll let people know how they can download those CDs. Mm-hmm. You have original music. Mm-hmm. You have cover songs that you do.
Yep.
So tell us about, how'd you start playing guitar? How'd you fall into it?
Yeah, so when I was little, we went to a music festival up in North Florida called Wani Music Festival, and he took me there when I was little, and we ended up going, I think, 5 or 6 years in a row.
So what year would you say this was? How old were you at this point?
I was 4 or 5 when.
So even at that young age, you appreciated music, like you felt it.
I mean, the first 2 or 3 years when I was 4 or 5, it was a lot of walking and a lot of whatever, but I still kind of remember enjoying what was happening and all that. But as I grew up a little more, when I got like more 7 and 8, and actually kind of figured out what was happening, and was conscious, I figured out that I kind of like the music, and he definitely introduced me into a lot of it, and I listen to it still, like just on my phone and whatever, and that kind of just core memory of going and seeing the Allman Brothers. They were towards the end of their run, and seeing that concert, and just like that really pushed me to like that music and start playing it.
Very cool. Yeah. So I'm assuming that you were playing guitar in the household, and he was a little kid, and he heard you, he saw you, he watched you.
Yeah. From a very young age, there's always a guitar around, and I would remember when he was just a baby, I would get home from work, and one of the ways I like to wind down was play guitar for an hour or so while his mom was cooking dinner, or just while, just to kind of unwind from work. And he would always sit in he had one of those little bumbo chair things, and he would always sit right there and just watch me and bounce along to the music. And he was always very, attentive to it. And we went to that first music festival. Like he said, he was actually 3, not quite 4. And that was the Allman Brothers Farewell Tour. Skinnerd was there. Tedeschi Trucks Band was there. There was just a great lineup, music all weekend. And we did a lot of walking. Your little legs did a lot of walking those first couple of years till we figured out where to camp and how to do it the right way. But like he said, he was too young to really appreciate or understand it, but he really, you could tell he was enamored by it. And so we came back from that, and he had a ukulele and a toy guitar that he just banged around with for a couple of years, and he had a really good music teacher at his school that he went to that encouraged exploration and all these things, and said, don't force anything on him yet. He's too young. Let him enjoy it and equate it to being fun. Right. And like any other thing. And so that's what we did till he was about 6, or I think on his 7th birthday, you got a real guitar. Mm-hmm. And I showed him a few things, got him going on, the cowboy chords and minor pentatonic scale and in the king position, or, a couple of little things like that to get him going. And then he really showed this aptitude and would sit in his room figuring it out, to the point where I said, okay, I'm mostly self-taught. I'm a self-proclaimed hack. He deserves to learn the right way. So then we got him into instruction, first at Studio 7 in Port Charlotte, and then at the Rock Box in Northport, where he was a student for 5 or 6 years, both vocals and guitar. So
was there a point that you can remember that you were like, oh my gosh, this kid's got it? Like when he was real little and you saw that he had rhythm, you saw that he kind of like understood the basic concepts. Were you excited? You're like, wow, man, because as a musician yourself, you're probably pumped. Like, hey, man, my kid's got, the same talent.
Yeah. And so my older two, I exposed both of them to music as well. And my daughter, especially, who's 22 now, she really showed an aptitude for it, both on guitar and keyboards. But you know this as well, and it doesn't just apply to music. It's anything, right? You have to love something to really be good
Yes.
at it, right? And you can have a talent for it, you can have a knack for it, but if you don't love it, it's going to be really hard to grow that talent anywhere near its potential. And I think he was probably, it was right after he got that first guitar, and he would just sit in his room and figure things out. And I went in there one day, he was probably 7 and a half, and you were playing along to like Pride and Joy from Stevie Ray Vaughan. And it wasn't accurate or whatever, but the rhythm was there, right? And the chords were a little off and the guitar was out of tune, of course, and whatever, but you could just tell like this is something he could do. And the other funny thing is he's left-handed, but he picked up the guitar right-handed and still plays it that way. And I've always thought that was interesting. And then there's some guitar players, including the guy on my shirt, Dwayne Allman, who played that way and were left-handed. And as you know, there's a debate about having your strong hand on the fretboard gives you an advantage if you can do this with your weak hand, right? So who knows? But it was somewhere right in there, 7, 8 years old. We're like, wow, he's really serious about this. And then it was about that time. You did your first live performance at a little talent show thing, and then you started going to open mic nights with me, and here we are.
So do you remember when you were 7 or 8, was it like you were in your room and you were practicing? Was it like, were you just so into it, like you'd rather do that than perhaps watch TV or do other things? I mean, like, how passionate were you at that age?
I mean, it was more. It wasn't like an obsession. It wasn't the driving force in my life. It was more just something after school do for an hour or two. Just have some fun, mess around.
So it was still a hobby at this point.
Yeah, and I mean it still is. It's definitely a lot more focused and a lot more you know bigger than we kind of thought it was going to be. But it's still fun. It's still a hobby. Like I practice. I try to do at least like an hour a day, and I still am off a little bit every once in a while, and whatever. But I kind of thought about it as just another thing to do when I get home, like playing on a little mini hoop in my room, and sitting on my iPad or playing video games or whatever. It was just one of those things that I'd kind of done anyway.
So as you got older and time went by, you got better and better, more comfortable, probably starting to have muscle memory, starting to figure stuff out without even thinking about it, right?
Yeah.
At what point did you figure out, let's put a band around him?
Well, that kind of happened by accident, like a lot of great things do, I guess. We were doing shows as a duo for about 6 months. This would have been in 2019. You were 8, not quite 9. Going to a few open mic nights, and somebody saw a video of an open mic night, booked us at a brewery in Cape Coral, played a couple of shows there, played a couple other shows, and we got booked on this. It was a Woodstock 50th anniversary show at the Charlotte County Event Center, and there was bands throughout the weekend. And we had like 2 20-minute sets or something like that. One on Friday night and one on Sunday or something. And so on Friday night, we shared a green room with another band. They were doing like a CCR tribute or something. And we knew one of the guys, the drummer, from one of the open mic nights we had gone to a few times. And they liked our show, and he invited us over. They were kind of in a house band at this little dive bar kind of across the street right there in downtown Punta Gorda, Shorty's. They played there every Saturday night with kind of a rotating cast of musicians, but the bass player and him were kind of the house rhythm section or whatever. So they invited us over to play a few songs with them. We went over and did that Saturday night, and that would have been the first time you ever played with the rhythm section, bass player, drummer, anything. And he just dropped right in and played 3 or 4 songs. I don't remember what it was, what the songs particularly were, but that was just really this fun thing. And after that, we had kind of gotten booked on a big stage for the Big Orange Music Festival there in Punta Gorda. Blackberry Smoke and the Allman Betts Band and a couple other really good bands were on that lineup, and they always do a local hometown thing. And somehow we had entered, and the guys had a soft spot for Champ and put us on a 30-minute set to start the day. So I basically had told and at that point they had booked us as a duo. So I told these guys, hey, let's rehearse a few times and see if we can put this band around together and do this show. And so we did that for, it was 2 or 3 months, and that we played that show in October, and that was kind of off to the races from there.
And your fan base grew pretty quickly. I mean, you have a nice Charlotte County fan base. There's no doubt.
Yeah, it did. That show kind of helped launch for a lot of things. Got our foot in the door at some of these better venues, places like the Sandbar and the Celtic Ray and Twisted Fork and those places like that. And the people started showing up, and we kind of wondered at first, are we doing this too early? Is it going to be too much? And we were really cognizant of not doing too much too fast, but most of the people I talked to, people whose opinion I valued in and outside of the industry, said, people like to watch the journey. People are going to subscribe to watch that progression and growth.
I agree.
And these fans that you develop, and it's completely true. We have these fans that have been with us since the beginning or close to it, and they come to almost every show. And we don't reinvent ourselves every show. We have a base set list. We do some stuff outside that here and there, and we mix the order up, and we have fun with it and do different things. But the people just love watching the progression,
Sure.
month to month, year to year, things like that.
You can look at the history of Joe Bonamassa. You can look at, Derek Trucks.
Sure.
You
Sure.
can look at some of these guys that, started out similar, where they were young boys that became young men that, that grew and their career took off, and so you're on a trajectory, of a successful Joe Bonamassa.
Those are two heavy names. We respect both those guys quite a bit, and if Champ ends up with half of their success, it would be a very successful career. But it's also it's one of the things we've really tried to focus on is making sure we had the opportunity to maybe chase that dream a little harder and be doing homeschooling from a tour bus somewhere and things like that. But it was important to Champ and important to us that he have some sort of normalcy in his childhood. Go to school, go to prom, Friday night lights, get in a little trouble, do have normal friendship, things like that. Because the music, there's you want to capitalize on the popularity and strike while the iron's hot to a certain degree on some of those things, especially after a couple of milestones he had in his career that really helped take that next step. But you're only a kid once. The music's always going to be there, and it's important for him to go get pushed around the hallways at Charlotte High and things like that. So.
And because you're in a great marketplace, I mean, Charlotte County, as a musician and a popular band myself, there's a lot of opportunities here. There's a lot of venues. There's a lot of people that love music, whether it's country, classic rock, blues, right? The hair metal. Yeah. I mean, I go to Twisted Fork a lot, and I see a lot of people just loving it up, soaking it up, man. So you're in a wonderful marketplace that you can even take some time off and still come back and be relevant.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about some of those milestones. I know there's a lot of them, but the one that comes out to me the most was the Ellen. Tell us about that experience.
It was the show itself was great. That was a great experience, but it was a little weird going up to it because we had done an audition for it. They had reached out to us. I'm pretty sure they had reached out to us, and they were asking just for an audition to and we just kind of figured we'd be put into the kind of bank of auditions they probably have for the whole show. They probably just had like a whole, couple thousand of them just sitting around. So we had done it, and thought it was pretty cool at the time, and then kind of forgot about it. And then that was 2 or 3 weeks later. We got an email that we had been
email, phone call, and text all at the same time.
Yeah,
from like the Ellen people,
from the producers of the show, right?
Yeah.
And is that Los Angeles where they taped?
Yes.
Yeah. And it basically talked about how they had Brad Paisley, and he had kind of picked us, or
because he happened to be the guest host.
Guest
so
host.
The timing was perfect.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. They were in a production meeting with Brad, and he asked if there was any young musicians that they may have that could be on the show, and they showed him the tape of Champ, and he said, "That's my guy. Get him out here."
Awesome.
Yeah. So we had flown out. That was the next
day.
Right? Yeah, next day. And it was 2021, right? It was
the end of 2021.
End of 2021. Yeah. So it was still, LA definitely was still very locked down and very contained.
COVID rules.
Yeah. And so we really didn't get to do much in LA. We were just kind of stuck to the hotel. We had to do COVID testing and all that for the actual show, but we were sitting in the like green room at the Ellen show. It was really cool experience. And then Brad was super great. He gave me a guitar on the show, and got to jam with him a little bit at the end. It was just real fun. And they did a great job of kind of capturing the whole experience, like in the show. Like we really didn't do much other than that.
Well, I mean, I'm thinking about it now. I mean, you were on the couch being interviewed, and then you got up and played.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So we had kind of practiced it a little bit, done a little sound check, but it was pretty like back to back. We just kind of done it and gotten out of there. I think the actual taping, whatever, like we were probably only there for 2 hours, and then we were out of there.
And the crowd, that's in front of a live audience.
It is in front of a live audience.
So that you got a reaction from them.
Yeah.
So what was it like? Like when you went back to Florida? I mean, your phone must have gotten lit up, your email, I mean, your social media, like that was a big moment.
So it was delayed. The taping, I think we taped, it was the first week of December, and the show aired between Christmas and New Year. So we had a couple of weeks to brace for it, I guess. But yeah, they call it the Ellen effect, I guess, whatever. And our social media numbers went up really, really high overnight. The interaction, the emails, all of those things. There was just, we're actually in a few weeks we're hitting the road, and we go to this really cool town in Jacksonville, Illinois. They found us because of that. We played there 2 or 3 out of the last 4 years, and so all these opportunities, some that are mirages and that don't work out, just kind of came almost overnight.
And it comes to you.
Yeah.
So now you became not just the father and the bandmate, but now you're the booking guy.
Well, yeah, and I had been managing from the beginning, but there's not a whole lot to manage per se when you're booking the local venues and doing the basic social media thing. It became a burden overnight, and eventually had some help doing some of that stuff. Had to, but yeah, you learn a lot of things on the fly, some by making mistakes, and like anything else, you adapt and figure it out. But that's been one of the challenges is right after that, he also we taped a spot on a TV show, NBC's Ordinary Joe. He had a little guest bit, and so those two things happened within like 3 or 4 weeks of each other. So yeah, things changed overnight, and you have to learn how to set boundaries and learn how to say no. It was one of the hardest things because, you get into the show business, and one of the first rules is, say yes to everything essentially. But it's different. He was 11 years old at that time and really getting his feet in the water. And you have to recognize, and I think any artist at any age and experience level, you're just prone to say yes because it's going to be exposure. It could lead to another opportunity. It could be something, but you have to set some guardrails, and that was kind of one of the hardest things to learn.
Sure. Yeah. No, you got a lot of stuff on your plate now. Now, was there ever a situation where you were like on TV more than one time?
For what?
I mean, you were on the Ellen show.
Not really. It was really just those two things, the Ordinary Joe thing,
Right.
that little guest appearance in the Ellen. That was just kind of the extent of it. I mean, yeah, and we had actually gotten, was it American Idol or
America's Got Talent?
That's what it was.
That's where I was going to go.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you.
Yeah.
Is that something that's in your cards?
Not really. I mean, it's just, I feel like there's no hard way to, there's no moving up, there's no whatever. It's just instant, like, as soon as you're on the show, and if you do okay, all it takes is one button push, and you're, Hollywood's biggest thing, and then if you're not, then you're just pushed away and you're rejected. There's no working up to it, there's no whatever. It's just instantly, getting shot up, and the contracts just, like, I've heard horror stories about them, just the contracts they give you and whatever. And, like, I completely understand that route and whatever, but it just, when they had reached out to us, and even now, if they reached out again and said kind of what they did, that don't have to do any of the auditions, go straight to Hollywood, do the whatever, I think it'd still be a no.
You know why? Because I don't think you need it, because you're already on a wonderful path.
Exactly.
And that might be designed for somebody who doesn't have a dad like you, who's knows what he's doing and can mentor and guide you. Maybe it's for some guy that doesn't have all that exposure, so he'll go on that show.
Well, they did approach us, and this was a couple years ago after the Ellen show and the TV show appearance. It was kind of all happening at once, and we asked some of these questions. What's the contract like? What happens if this and this and this? And they weren't used to people asking them questions. They're used to people just saying yes. They get stars in their eyes, and it's we're going to be famous. We're going to be standing in front of Simon Cowell or Howie Mandel or whoever it is, right? And we just didn't. Especially he was 11 years old at the time, and we thought if there is the opportunity for him to go far on the show and have this overnight, the Ellen show is one thing. You're on these Hollywood, talent shows. It's a whole nother thing. It would really change everything overnight. And we just didn't feel like it was the right time or necessarily the right way, like he said. And we had just released the album and wrote a song kind of about that, about paying your dues and how the talent show wasn't really his path. So we felt like we'd be selling out if we turned around and went right on the show too. But and that could change. And I, like you said, at that time we were really building a organic fan base and homegrown and we felt like, taking the stairs was the right way to do it, and it's kind of still do.
Great. Let's talk about the music. So, how do you pick the songs you're going to play? Tell me about the set list, how you put it together. Are you constantly listening to music saying, hey, let's go ahead and learn this next? Like, how does the whole process work?
So we really just kind of cycle through. We have a good, 30 to 40 songs. Something in that range that we just, we don't change it up too much. There's a lot of people that, every song on the set list, they're sitting there singing along to and whatever. So it's, and we try adding new stuff every once in a while. We try to do at least, couple new songs every once in a while, just to change it up a little bit. But we have a pretty good set, and we
Allman Brothers are on that set.
Oh yeah,
Skinner. So there's a good blues. Yeah. There's from what I've seen so far, there's some Southern rock.
Yeah.
So is this coming from your influence that rubbed off on him, and then he just picked it up and ran with it? Yeah,
that's fair to say. For me and the same thing, mostly because of the influences I got growing up in my house. It starts and ends with the Allman Brothers and Skinner.
One of the greatest bands in the world, Allman Brothers, no doubt.
And then, the Hendrix and the Stones and the Crosby, Stills and Nash and all of that kind of psychedelic hippie sort of rock is where just kind of my center is and always has been. And I like a lot of country music as well. And we're all over the place. I grew up in the hair metal era too, so I listened to a lot of that. So, but he latched onto the blues based and all rock and roll is really blues based if you break it down. But that's that Southern rock kind of twangy, Stevie Ray sort of style stuff, and that's we get outside that box a little bit. Some of our original stuff leans a little more country too, but yeah, that's where we're at, and it's definitely because I brainwashed him.
Yeah, because I was born in '65, right? So by '69, I started to kind of become aware of stuff.
Yeah.
And in the '70s, I was listening to the radio big time.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of Cream. Mm-hmm. And then Eric Clapton, and then I learned that Clapton is God, mm-hmm. and Clapton was the man for a very long time. And then you found out later that little guys that were younger, like Eddie Van Halen and all those hotshot guys, they were listening to Eric Clapton, listening to the records and learning it note for note. So he became an influence.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, all these other blues guys came out. The Robert Crays, right?
Mm-hmm.
Stevie Ray Vaughan's, the John Mayers. But you're right. Blues is where the foundation of rock and roll. When you go to the Hall of Fame in Cleveland, have you gone?
We have. We were on tour a couple years ago and stopped through and went.
Yeah, because they kind of do a nice thing of showing you how it went from blues, like the Stones, and the Zeppelin. Like all they were doing was just blues covers, right?
Yeah.
And then they started, like, I guess somebody yelled at somebody to say, you got to start writing your own music.
Yeah.
You can't just keep doing covers.
Yeah, Cream was like that to a degree as well. A lot of those guys were,
so blues is, and then you could make the same argument about Southern rock and country. There's that blues element.
Yeah.
So if you become proficient in the blues, like you are, it's going to set the table for so many other things if you want to go in other directions.
Yeah.
I mean, I think outside of the Allman Brothers, my favorite band as far as like epic bands, man, Like, someone says you can only pick 5 or whatever.
Yeah.
Zeppelin's got to be on that
Oh
list.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that you can't have that the discussion about rock and roll without that.
So let's have that conversation. So
Yeah.
let me hear both of your opinions on who your top, say, 5 or 6 bands.
All right, I'll go first.
You get to go first.
I gotta say Allman Brothers for sure. Just the influence, and Dickie Betts is like my biggest inspiration.
Did you ever meet Dickie?
Influence. Yeah.
That's cool.
I got to meet him a couple times, and he was just great. Great guy. And I remember going out to his house, and he actually signed my Gibson SG. It was my first like real nice guitar, and we ran out to the car and grabbed it, and he signed it for me, and we gave him a Champ Jaxon t-shirt, and that was probably a couple months later, around Christmas time. He took a like Christmas picture or whatever with his family, and he was wearing the Champ shirt.
Very cool.
And that was real
Very
cool.
cool.
Just to see him wearing that, and so I mean, he's just one of my biggest influences as far as guitar goes. All older, his Blue Sky solo, and just a lot of that stuff really has influenced me. And so the Allman Brothers got to be number 1 for me. And then I gotta say, the Grateful Dead, just Jerry Garcia and all the mixolydian and all that weird, kind of psychedelic tones that he had. Like we play a couple Grateful Dead songs, and that's really influenced me. And then Black Crowes, I really just like, I listen to a lot of their music still. They're real big influence on the way I kind of sing, and that's just, I mean, I love
I
all their
agree.
songs. Yeah,
Black Crowes are
love
on my
Black
list
Crowes.
too.
Yeah. And then I got to be Zeppelin, obviously Jimmy Page. That's another pretty big influence. And then not as much of a band, more just a player, but just Stevie Ray Vaughan.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
Yeah.
Him and Hendrix I kind of put in the same categories, just like breaking ground and whatever. And that's like both of them just big influences too. I mean, they were influences to everybody, like anybody who's ever played rock and roll guitar. Those are the 2 guys. So
You know what? I'm afraid that maybe kids don't have the same luxury that we had, is that sitting there and listening to the record, putting the record out, and then opening the record, look at the liner notes, because CDs came out.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that wonderful experience of, like, I learned how to read basically as a young kid,
reading the liner notes,
sneaking into my sister's room when I wasn't supposed to be there, and playing her fancy records on her fancy stereo system. She would kill me if she caught me. But I would sit there for hours and hours and hours. Led Zeppelin 2, open it up, read the liner notes, man. Houses of the Holy, Physical Graffiti, all these Eagles, you said Dead. I was in a world, I was immersed in this world, man. It's like, I didn't want to read books. I just wanted to listen to records, read the liner notes, and memorize the lyrics. So, I mean, you could probably go out and still buy records now. I mean, like, the records are making a comeback.
Yeah, we do. We have a record collection. I have a bunch that my dad had that he gave me, and a few were some I picked up when I was a kid that were in that collection. But we started buying records again 7 or 8 years ago, I guess, a little bit at a time. And I agree completely. And with CDs, you still had that a little bit, but now now it's all digital, and you can't feel or touch or read any of it. Yeah,
of the needle.
But yeah, and that's one of the reasons we did when we made his first album a couple of years ago. We had to get it put on wax.
Very
just
cool.
for that same feeling.
Very cool.
And that was one of the things I remember, the day the box of records show up, we opened it up, and it's just such a surreal, cool feeling to see your face and your
another milestone for you.
Your thank yous and all those the song lyrics and all those things. It was really, really cool. And so yeah, vinyl, is a really a neat thing, and I have a stack of it at our house, and now it's all fancy. I have the record player that syncs to my Bluetooth surround system, and so you still get the pumps and crackles, but it's going through the Bose surround. It's
so
great.
What would you say your 5 bands are?
So I mean, my list probably isn't much different than his. I would put the Rolling Stones on there, but I don't know who I would kick off. And then Skynyrd would have to be on there too, but again, I don't know who I would kick off. And as far as players, individual players, Derek Trucks and Dwayne.
I'm going to see Tedeschi Trucks in October.
Are you?
Yeah. Every time they come through town, I have to see them.
We try. We don't get to see him every
So
time,
good.
but I think Derek, and he's about my age. I think he's a year older than me. And I remember seeing him at Gators in Port Charlotte when I was too young to be in there. If I wouldn't have been with my parents, 13 or 14 or something, and it just didn't make sense how good he was. And still, I think he's one of the best guitar players in the world, and great guy. Him and Susan, that whole band.
Susan's voice is incredible.
Yeah, she's
my band. If you ever get a chance to come see Jacked Up, we do some Tedeschi stuff. Yeah, my singer can sing like her. She can really channel her.
I have to tell this quick story about the Black Crowes. They're absolutely one of my favorite bands. I think they should be, on the short list of American rock and roll bands. And Chris Robinson, just an amazing front man. So this was a few years back. I had bought tickets. They had the reunion tour. They didn't get along forever.
I was there.
They got back together. The Shake Your Money Maker, and it got postponed like twice because of COVID. It was supposed to be in the summer of 2020, and that was my 40th birthday. That was my gift to go second row, meet and greet, VIP, the whole thing, and then it gets postponed a couple of times. So, but we end up going, and Champ's all rock and rolled out with his little hat and everything, and we go to the meet and greet before the show, and we walk up, and Chris Robinson looks over at him. He's like, "Oh man, you got a whole vibe going on. You should start a rock and roll band." And Champ's like, "I already got one." But we were in the second row that night, really, really great seats, and really great show. And at the end of the show, I can't remember what song it was. I'd have to look at the set list. Last song or second to last song, Chris came over and threw his harmonica at Champ. Gave his harmonica to
That's
Champ.
very nice.
So really, really, I just love their new album. Sounds like them, that a lot of bands recently that I really
Happiness
like.
Bastards.
Yeah. A lot of bands that I like have recently released albums that don't sound great. Rolling Stones included. Their album they released a year or two ago. Not my favorite. I didn't think it was very strong at all. There's some moments. There's a song or two, but overall, I didn't. It doesn't sound like them to me, And but the Black Crowes, you could drop back right in 1995, and that sounds like who they are.
The first album comes out, and it was a monster. Yeah. It still is.
Yeah.
And it was very well needed because at that time music was horrible.
Yeah.
And the music was
all
going
synthesized.
It was going down a toilet. And then me and my buddies who were rockers, we found that record and we were like, "Oh my God, it's a savior."
Yeah.
And then what band follows up with an even better record? I mean, I think that second album is fantastic.
Oh, yeah.
Every song makes sense. I love albums that you put on from start to finish, and it just they make sense.
Well, and like you said, nobody does that anymore. You don't even do that on your phone. You'll put on a shuffle or create a radio station or whatever.
All just the hits.
You don't even, that's really a lost thing, is the album construction and what songs should go in what order. That most musicians these days that are much younger than me don't even consider probably.
Two bands that jump out to me. I'm a New Yorker, so I was a big Springsteen guy. Yeah. So I followed his career, especially the first couple albums. And Born to Run to me is an epic masterpiece, the way it's laid out. But then I got involved with The Who, and Tommy was the only thing I played for like 3 years in a row, dude.
Yeah.
I just listened to Tommy every day, every night. It was the greatest.
What's the line
record
from Almost Famous where the older sister leaves the album and listen to Tommy with the candle on and everything will make sense or something? Yeah.
That was a great movie, man.
Great movie.
I love that movie. In fact, I went out and got it on like the director's cut with all the commentary because I loved it so much.
Yeah. We had a T-shirt design a couple of years ago, where they have the T-shirt comes out and everybody's blurred out except the lead singer. They're just
out of focus
they're
guys.
just like the out of focus guys. So we did that where all of us were out of focus, but Champ, it went over pretty well.
That's funny
for the people that got it, at least. Not everybody gets it. That movie's 20-something years old now.
So let's talk about you're live, you're on stage, okay. You guys using inner ears? You just using regular monitors? What are you doing?
He uses the inner ears.
I
the rest of us just use wedges.
Yeah, I think inner ears is a wonderful thing to do, and now that you're getting used to it, and it's gonna your career will have a longevity now because I think you won't have to scream as much.
Yeah.
You'll hear everything better. I just think it's the way to go.
Mm-hmm.
As a bass player, I hate wearing them because I like to. But now, I'm in certain venues I have to, like Gator Club, because there's a wall literally right there, and everything is like.
Oh, yeah.
But we do a lot, like you guys, we do a lot of outside shows.
Yeah.
So like when you're doing Paragon Seafood Festivals, when you're doing Twisted Fork, when you're doing things up in Manatee where we are, there's a lot of sound companies that you're outdoors and the wedges are there.
Yeah.
But my singer, all my singers use them and all my drummers use them.
Yeah.
What kind of monitors are they?
Dreamers.
Dreamers. That's what it is.
Mitch out of St. Pete. We know a lot
It's
of
so
guys.
funny you say that because I'm using the KZs because they're cheap. You get them on and they're really good. They're better than West Tones.
Mm-hmm.
But somebody said, I need to get molded. Are yours molded?
Yeah. And they still fit. We got them. That was.
It's been a couple
That
years.
was 4 or 5 years ago. I think.
No, not quite that.
Not that long, but yeah, we got them a while ago. They still fit pretty good. I don't know how the electronics are. They've been bugging out a little bit recently, but they're really great.
Sometimes you have to like rattle it, right? Because sometimes it's like,
well, that's not
sweat drips down and it gets in there.
That's not the in-ears. That's the
it's battery
transmission battery pack stuff too. You know how all that goes.
Yeah, there's times when I'm frustrated as hell because I'm like, it's perfect, and all of a sudden I go like this, and it goes. I'm like, what the hell?
You accidentally hit the volume knob or something. Yeah.
All right. But so you guys have that system. You obviously following a set list. You keep a tablet on stage.
We have kind of stopped doing that a little bit. And I used to a little more, especially like when we would add newer songs and stuff to the set list, just for lyrics and whatever. And I usually really wouldn't need it. And it had gotten to the point where it was just something keep the time really or keep the time or just look at the set list. But and we don't really always have a set list. That's something we need to start doing a little better because we take too much time in between.
Well, tell us about that. So are you just calling them out?
Sometimes, and that's something we've kind of tried to work on a little bit.
Yeah, let me elaborate. We used to make set lists, and then Champ would shred them as we went, anyways. So yeah, and that's really funny, especially as the dad, right, and being stage right, and early on he would look at me for cues and guidance in the set list and things like that, and then over the last couple of years, there's been this transition where he's up there running the show now, and you better get in line, both with the music and
as is expected.
If we make
it's expected, it's a transition,
and it's not an ego or an arrogance thing, but he's just developed, embracing that band leader, some of those.
Plus, you know what? You're an artist now. I mean, you're actually creating art. I mean, so there's a direction you want to take your audience, right?
And some nights, and I'm sure you guys do this as a band. You may create the set list, but halfway through the set, this song just doesn't feel right. The energy is different, or you want to do this one instead.
You have to call audibles.
Exactly, calling audibles because of the way the room feels, or some situation. So it's more of that instead of just going willy nilly about it. And we play most things. We kind of have a structure. We usually always lead with these couple of songs, and these other couple are always in the first set. These other couple are always towards the end or in the last set. So, but having the ability, because we improvise as a band a lot as it is musically, and just kind of seeing where the energy in the night takes.
So the Almonds and the Dead were known for that. I mean, especially the Dead. Oh, yeah, they might do an intro for 20 minutes.
Yeah.
We're not quite that noodly. We try to keep some structure to it, because that a certain your casual Sunday afternoon crowd isn't always going to be into that. They at least want to know recognize what song
they want to sing
playing.
along.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. But we wander sometimes, which I think is that, to me, that's where the magic is. That's why we've always been drawn to bands like that, because that kind of teetering on the edge of the unknown, and it feels like it could all fall apart at any moment, and then somehow you get back to where you started, and the train keeps moving again.
Rock and roll,
that's always fun. Yeah.
So we have a system. My singer will turn to Larry and say the new song because he's on her right. Then he goes to the keyboard player, tells him. Sarah then turns around and tells me at the same time. So now I know. So then I go to the drummer. So the five of us can make a call in seconds.
Yeah.
And we don't fight. So like if she says she's doing this, even if I don't want to do it, we're doing it because there's no time for that.
Right.
We just played in front of 1,200 at Twisted Fork.
Yeah.
We opened up for a Bon Jovi tribute, and it had to be one of our best shows. It was 75 minutes.
Yeah.
So we did make an audible, and I was very proud with the guys afterwards. I said to them, I said, listen, man, we pulled that off beautifully. Yeah. Like nobody knew it was an audible was just called.
Yeah. What tribute band was that?
It was Slippery When Wet.
Okay.
A Bon Jovi tribute.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, man, some of these tribute bands Bert was on the show, Bert Parsley and Marcus Parsley. They're both on separate times. And I'm a huge fan of the restaurant.
Yeah,
the music, the
top notch. Bert and Marcus are both
sound,
great guys. It's a top notch venue.
A couple times a year, just like you guys. Yeah. And sometimes we'll do a 12 o'clock on a Saturday. Sometimes we'll do an 8 o'clock on a Friday. We mix it up. Yeah. But it's just always a great show, and there's always high energy there. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And one of the best things, and this, is when you come off stage I mean, people were just mugging us, man.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
Yeah.
It's so funny, man, because I'm a cover band. You guys are cover bands. Well, you have originals.
Yeah.
Yeah, mostly covers.
But
yeah,
I'm very humble because even if we're good and we're getting better, and people say, "Hey, man, you guys were great. Can I buy you a drink?" I'm very humble because I'm like, you know what? I'm just a guy that happens to be in a cover band and we're having fun and they pay us.
Yeah.
I would have done it for free,
Exactly.
but they're paying us. So I'm very humble about it. Do you try to stay humble in all your success?
I mean, yeah, and there's a point to it where it it gets a little annoying, honestly. Like if it's everybody's asking for a signature, everybody's asking for a picture, and obviously I love it. And like there's the attention's great, and every single person that asks for a signature, I'm gonna try to do that. I'm gonna try to
do you allot that in your
picture.
schedule? Like, do you try to have a meet and greet, or do you try to do something where he's
There's
accessible?
some shows where we do that.
It depends. There was a point where, like he said, it got a little overwhelming. And again, it goes back to setting some boundaries, and you want to be accessible and personal for the fans, right? Without them, there's no show. All of those
because
things,
you're a concert goer, and it's like
right.
You're a fan too,
right? Exactly. And it's weird going from that one side to the other, right? And so, 99% of the time, we're going to try to, yep, we got time for a picture. Yep, we got time for an autograph, any of those things. And there's a part where that really, strokes your ego and makes you feel good about it. But there has to be a little bit of a balance too. So we do a lot of shows, where something like that, will be part of like a VIP meet and greet kind of extra thing, or we do try to put some time aside after the show as well, at least a few minutes for some pictures and autographs. But some shows, some venues, a place like the Twisted Fork where there's 1,000 people, you do have to.
Plus, these are families and neighbors of yours. I mean, these are people that know you, so it's a different story there. But exactly. I'm assuming when you're in Illinois, and you don't really know what's going on, you're gonna have to have more security and you have to have more like structure.
Well, yeah, and you also with those fans too, you also want to make yourself accessible too, because you only see them once a year or once every other year too, so they don't have that opportunity to see it in 2 weeks at some other venue. So it's a balancing act. His well-being and safety is always one of the forefronts, and some shows we do have to have dedicated security. A lot of them we don't, but as well as I do, a lot of these venues we play, they serve alcohol, people have a good time, and they kind of lose their sense of personal space and boundaries sometimes, and
manners
and it's I got to be the Papa Bear protective parent sometimes, and sometimes if we're on stage or between stage, I can't always do that. So having someone as a second set of eyes is really important.
I just thought of a question. When there's liquor involved, does that present a problem? Like, is he allowed to play any venue? Or is there certain states that have rules you're not allowed to be in?
Certain states have different rules. We had the first couple of times we went out of state, we had to look this up. Some states you have to register, like Georgia, you have to register with the Department of Labor as a minor entertainer, and then it's okay. And that's kind of how Florida is. If you're an entertainer, you're exempt from some of those rules as long as the ownership is okay with it, and obviously as long as you're not actually drinking alcohol or anything like that. But I think it was Indiana where they have really weird rules where if alcohol is being served on the premises, he can't be.
Yeah,
can't
if it's
be
like in the
there,
view, I think is what it was.
Something like that. So it does vary state to state. We go to Wisconsin as well, and in Wisconsin they'll serve you, I think. But yeah, so that's another one of those things you don't always think of. And a lot of it, we found it funny in the beginning. A lot of venues that, especially the ones with liquor licenses, they don't want anything to do with the kid being there, especially 8, 9, 10 o'clock at night on a Saturday, whatever. And that's understandable. And we have some still where he gets off the stage, he exits stage left and goes right out back to the car and sits in the car till the next set, if they don't have a green room or things like that, which a lot of places don't. And so it's been funny navigating through that, but really there hasn't been a lot of problems.
But are you able to do nighttime shows now? Because I think years ago you were just doing kind of daytime stuff.
We do some nighttime shows, but it's still very dependent on the venue and when they want that slot. There's a lot of places, they want you to play till midnight, and even though he's a little older now, we don't want to do that. But we'll play the 7 to 10, or maybe even sometimes the 8 to 11 slot. We like where did we play last week where it was 6 to 9.
Oh,
That's a great spot.
Yeah, Pioneers.
Yeah. So yeah, we will play at night, but we don't want to be there, have him out till midnight.
So when you guys are headline, you'll do a 3-hour set. So
Normally, yeah.
So what is that, like 2 or 3? Like if you're doing a 3-hour show, do you break it down into 3 sets or 2 bigger sets?
We like to do the 2 bigger sets. Well, we like to do like 75-minute set, 30 minutes off, 75-minute set, and then you're done. Sometimes, this time of year, if it's really hot, or if you have a thunderstorm to contend with, or things like that, we will sometimes break it into 3 shorter sets. And a lot of places, want you to play 4 hours too. And I get why the venues want that. They want to keep people there the extra hour to get, an extra 2 drinks out of them or things like that. But we try to shy away from that whenever we can. We found you end up playing maybe 1 or 2 more songs anyway. You take a longer break, then you do break the sets down and you squeeze the breaks out of it. And I did the list a couple of times. Maybe you end up that extra set, you really end up only playing 2 or 3 extra songs. And these 100-degree days.
3 hours should be the max. I mean, yes, we do 4-hour shows, so we'll do 3 big sets and with breaks. But I think that who wants to? I mean, if your band is good and you're putting out really good music, I think the fans could be content with just a 3-hour show.
Well,
I don't think they need that extra hour. You know what I'm saying?
When you pay top dollar to go see a touring band that you really like, when do they ever play for 4 hours?
No, I mean, I saw AC/DC. I think they did like just barely 2 hours.
2.5, 3
which is perfect.
Is a lot, right?
Yeah. I mean, the opening act does an hour, maybe 90.
Yeah.
The headliner does 90 to 120, right?
Yeah, that's a good formula. I like to do that 2 sets though, because we found, especially if it's a night set, everybody leaves if you take that second break. Mm-hmm. That third set, right. You got half the crowd.
Sometimes I forget that this is an older market, and there's a lot of people that are early to rise, early to bed. So like a lot of people have great intentions, but like even in Sarasota, it's just as bad as in Charlotte. People like to get drunk at happy hour.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So like 5 o'clock, a lot of places are rocking.
Yeah.
Like we played Clancy's, and 5 o'clock it's like almost packed.
And then they're cleared out by 9.
Yeah. I mean, it's the demographic around here, and especially with the music we play, the older music. But it's great that to have the older retired demographic here in Charlotte County and Southwest Florida, I guess.
And to your point, these are folks with disposable income, so it's not like they're just retired. These guys are spending money.
Yeah,
they're buying food, they're buying liquor. And they're coming out 3-4 times. You got a good friend of mine, Sal Carabata, and his wife Denise.
Yeah.
So they're big fans of live music, and they like live at the Twisted Fork.
Some of these people go out
always
every
videotaping.
Weekend,
And so he'll keep a bank of like, you can go back to his YouTube and see all your shows. And sometimes I tell Sal, jokingly, I'm like, dude, you sometimes you record like the worst song. I'm like, I like my bass, I tripped over my chord and you recorded it. I look like an idiot. And he posted it. I'm like, hey, come on, man.
That's how it always goes.
1 or 2 songs you record, you're sitting there tripping on your chord.
It's funny because I see a lot of bands in here, right? A lot of musicians, and we all share stories about stupid things like, stepping on your pedal, or knocking over your microphone. Sometimes there's things, and my next question would be about sound, right? So we were dependent on other people for many, many years, and finally we went out and bought our own gear, and we bought high-end, high-tech, great stuff, and we do our own sound. Now, occasionally for the bigger shows, somebody will run our tablet for us, so we're not stressing out on stage, but it's our gear. Now, obviously that changes when you go to Twisted Fork or when you go to the seafood festivals, but what are you guys doing as far as that goes? I mean, are you only playing venues that give you the house PA, or do you actually travel with a PA?
We have our own PA. We prefer playing venues that provide it, but some that can be a curse too, right? You know, they have house sound and they're 25-year-old PV speakers that are half blown and all these things too, right? So we have the ability to run our own sound. We also have a third-party sound company we use sometimes that provides top-notch stuff and a sound engineer. When we do have our own PA, when it's places that don't provide it, we bring another sound engineer. So we're not trying to fool with it from stage. Um, it's really hard, as I'm sure you know if you've done it, to the mix on stage doesn't sound like the front of house mix, and to you still have to have somebody in the crowd.
You have to trust the front of the house people.
Yeah.
Because my monitor mix sometimes sounds like shit. And then I'm saying to myself, do I sound like this outside? And then I come to find out that no, you sounded great out front.
Exactly.
So it's a psychological game you're playing.
Just had that last show. The first set, I kept messing with my pedals and messing with my amp because it sounded atrocious where I was sitting, and everybody, first thing I did, my dad was in the crowd, and he wouldn't lie to me. He said, "No, it sounds fine out here." And so I said, "Okay."
It gives you the old thumbs up from a distance.
Yeah, okay, I'll get over it and just put up with this. If it sounds fine out there, that's all that matters. But yeah, so we don't run it from the stage anymore for those same reasons, and it increases the anxiety level for everyone.
Yeah, you just want to be a performer. You don't want to be stressing out.
Right, and so we either have a guy that we bring with us that runs our PA. Or we'll use the house people if it's places like Twisted Fork or other people that they have good stuff and know what they're doing. Or we have another guy that we hire that's kind of a full service if the gig pays enough where we can afford him usually. Yeah.
Good. Walk us through the current lineup.
The band or the songs? Okay. So obviously this guy. He's the rhythm guitar player.
Do you ever yell at him and say, "Hey man, you're out of key," or you're playing the wrong song?
Nah, I mean he stays on it a little bit. He's all right. He's okay. He's just all
miss
right.
A chord change every once in a while, but catch up fast. Yeah. It's not the note you miss; it's the one after that that matters.
Yeah, and then we got our bass player. He's been with us about a year and a half now.
Little over a year, year and a half.
And he's his name's James Oakley. He's
Is he related to Barry Oakley?
Yep. Yeah.
No kidding.
He's Barry Oakley's grandson. So
Barry Jr., who lives here in Sarasota. He's one of Barry's sons. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. So obviously he's a great bass player with the name Oakley.
Yeah. He was more of a natural guitar player and messed with the bass a little bit, but when the opportunity came to join us, he really, really, woodshedded the bass and is really come to own the songs since he joined the band. He's a great kid. He just turned 20 years old, and we love having him around. He's really developing his style on stage, and he's a great singer too. He's been singing a couple songs every show, and so we're really happy to have him. Yeah.
Yeah, and then our drummer Brent, who he's
he's gonna see this, right?
Yeah. Well, I'm just kidding. He's real nice. He's a great guy, but he's got he's a character.
Brent's been with us since the beginning. Brent was one of those guys in the green room. The original bass player moved to California during COVID, Alex. But Brent missed one show, and it was in that first year.
Yeah.
He was out of town for work, and we had a sub drummer, and Brent's still mad about missing that one show.
He's passionate.
Oh yeah, he's great.
Yeah, he's really, really good drummer. He plays with a lot of emotion. He's always smiling ear to ear, and people always comment about how much fun it looks like the drummer's having, and he stays on beat. The band's only as good as its drummer, and we got to go. But he acts like a drummer too, if you know what I mean. He's we go on the road and. He's no Keith Moon or anything, but it's
fun.
We all do, but
that's cool.
That's
cool. I as a bass player, I see the value of a really, really good drummer because it makes my job a lot easier.
Yeah.
Okay, so just the four of you, do you sometimes use a keyboard player?
I don't think we ever have, honestly.
We've never really had one in the lineup. We've talked about adding
for
one
the studio for the album for the songs we recorded at Capricorn Studios in Macon. We had Sean Oakley, which is James' brother. He played some organ on both of those songs. I think he did both of them. And then for the regular album, we had the producer there play some
We had some
play
keyboard fills
yeah,
on a couple
yeah,
of songs, but we've never really had one as part of the lineup.
yeah.
Do you ever use tracks?
Never.
Nope.
See, I don't like tracks at all.
Yeah.
Some of my friends' bands use tracks. I think it comes down to how tastefully or untastefully you use them.
Yeah.
If you use tastefully and they make the song better, yes. But once you start relying on them,
Yeah.
and maybe you don't want to get a keyboard player, so now you have too many keyboard songs. I mean, that's just, I think, to me personally,
Yeah.
I don't like it.
Yeah.
Listen, there's a lot of different ways to approach music. There's a lot of different styles, and all of them work for everybody. But with the tracks, I think it's very easy to go from some tasteful fills and some backing things to where it turns into karaoke with
Correct.
you holding a guitar.
Correct.
Or and we've seen those guys too. And again,
Hey, they're making money though. But see, that's the thing.
Exactly.
There was one band, I'm not going to mention their name. They're making a lot of freaking money, and they're heavy track band.
Well, you see the guys sitting at the tiki bar, doing that with the tracks, and they're strumming along or playing some leads and singing, and the venue wants them there. They're there every week or whatever. They're making money. They're making the venue money. So who am I to knock it?
Don't
right?
let the player hit the game.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
but yeah, that's not something we've ever done. Yeah. And it's funny. We were playing with a band recently where they've gone to all the synthetic modular pedal stuff instead of amplifiers, real amps. And I just, my back might disagree, right? But I just can't wrap my head around just having this little digital box thing that replaces your traditional.
So you guys are a rock and roll band, but how would you describe yourself? So if somebody that's never seen or heard you before, you have to describe what the Champ Jaxon band is. How would you put that into words?
I'd say we're a southern rock band that takes, blues and, kind of psychedelic influence. I feel like is what we are. We obviously take influence from the Grateful Dead, and we have some some more out there songs, but we obviously have more country and more southern rock songs. So
psychedelic swamp rock.
Yeah, psychedelic swamp rock. That's fair enough. Yeah.
But rock and roll is, to me, what rock and roll is that it's not perfect.
Yeah.
There's definitely adrenaline flowing through your body. There's electricity in the air.
Yeah.
Some shows you sound better than others. There are some shows where we're sounding so damn good. I have my eyes closed when I'm playing.
Yeah.
I'm not even looking at the audience because I'm just feeling it.
Yeah.
Other shows I'm like, holy shit, I can't wait till the song ends.
Yeah.
We got to get the hell out of here.
Yeah.
So that's what rock and roll is to me, man. It's just a mixed bag that everything comes together. I mean, you guys know this, man. Aren't there times when you're playing and you're all looking at each other like, holy shit, we sound fantastic. We're in the zone.
Yeah.
Right? It's like lightning in a bottle.
Yeah. They call it hitting the note in the Allman community when you're all locked in like that. You're hitting the note. And that's a fun place to be. And like you said, sometimes it happens for almost an entire show or an entire set or an entire song. Sometimes it doesn't happen all night, right? And there's a lot of variables with that. And like you said, that's where the magic lives. That's where the fun's at. And again, not to knock any other bands or the way they do things, but you go see a band, cover band or tribute band, and they play the music exactly like you hear it on the record, right? Well, if I wanted that, I'd just go somewhere where there's a jukebox, right? I want something, even a cover band, right? Make the song your own. No, don't completely change it, right? But it should be recognizable. But put your stamp on it. I think I always appreciate musicians that do that, even if they're strictly in a cover band.
Would you say that you, as a guitar player, and Champ Jaxon as a band, you have your own sound now? For an example, do you think somebody can close their eyes and listen to your recordings and be, wait a minute, that's the Champ Jaxon band? You think you're there yet at that point where you're identifiable by your tones?
Yeah, I feel like I think I have kind of, I mean, obviously not to toot my own horn, I guess, but I feel like I have kind of a unique voice and a unique way of singing, and obviously, no guitarist no guitarists are ever the same. I have my tone. Everybody's got their tone. Like,
but when it comes to tone, I'm constantly chasing tone.
Yeah.
I'm chasing tone all the time. I'm trying to figure out the best tone I can get, and I admire other bass players. Yeah. But are you happy with your tone, or are you constantly tweaking with it?
I mean, there'll be some shows where, I accidentally knocked a setting on my one or two pedals that I really don't have that many pedals. I got a delay pedal just for, there's a couple of songs where I use it. I have just an overdrive pedal that's just always on. Then I got a wah pedal, and that's just about it. So I really don't change it that much. It's other than those things, it's just me and my amp. And obviously the guitars that I play have, some effect on that, but I just feel like changing tone a lot can really mess you up if you're trying to establish yourself as a musician and as a band, because if you keep changing it over and over and over again, then you just kind of lose, like,
You don't have that
you don't
identity.
have that,
Yeah.
unique like stamp on your music. And I feel like if, you know, I could very easily, spend an hour and try to get all my tones for different songs down, where, this song I want to sound more like Dickie Betts guitar playing, and this song I want to sound more whatever. But I want to sound like Champ Jaxon when I'm playing my music. And there's songs where I copied the solos, like in Ramblin' Man, I play that, like the in between solo, just about note for note, just because that's one of our songs where, like, a lot of people come up and dance to it. And
Yeah,
whatever.
you got
That's
to pay
just-
respect
yeah,
to it. You got to do it right.
Yeah, but later in the song and whatever, I'll change it up, and my tone is nowhere close to where Dickie Betts is. It's a little dirtier. It's got more reverb. Like, there's just a lot of things that I've kind of tweaked, and I'm happy with the way my guitar sounds, and that's the way it is.
During a 3-hour show, how many guitars do you actually use?
Sometimes I'll stick to one. I'll usually switch it up, 2 or 3. But and then we play one song where I got either a lap steel, a shovel, or a cigar box. So we change it. Occasionally, but yeah. So we got a song where we do that. But other than that, it's either my 59 Gibson Les Paul Special.
Is that your go-to?
Yeah, that's my guitar.
Yeah.
And then our buddy in Venice, Victor, he owns Blind Armadillo Guitars, and he made a couple custom guitars for me. So I usually like to play one of those for a couple songs. They're great instruments. He custom made them, and he actually made a replica of my 59. So I don't have to, put as much workload and whatever on that old guitar. So it stays in tune a little better.
What about strings? What strings are you using? What particular brand?
Stringjoy.
Stringjoy. It's like a delivery. They're great. What okay, we do 9.5.
9.5.
9.5.
They're the only company out there I know of that does strings in half gauges. And one of his old guitar instructors, Scott Sherrard, who was in Greg Allman's band and is now in Little Feat, Scott turned us on to these half gauge strings because that's what he used, and they're right in the sweet spot. But they do a delivery service. We get a 6-pack of strings every
one
month.
day he'll have his own endorsement.
Yeah, well, let's cha-ching. Hope so.
Because I use Blue Magic, so like the way it works is because I promote Blue Magic. I love their strings; they stay for the bass, especially. I'll get I buy 2, I get 1 thrown in for free.
Yeah. We're
That's
all
about it.
We're all about that endorsement life.
Hey, turn your Red Bull can. Yeah,
That's funny. What about your amp? What amp are you using?
We got a Harry Joyce amp. Speaking of endorsements, it's a Harry Joyce amp. It's real nice. He gave us a great deal. And we got just a great amp, dude. It's real nice. I can't play it at every show because it's a little much. It's a pretty big.
It's only a 30 watt, but you could play it at Wembley Stadium.
Yeah.
But when you play a larger venue, you're gonna still go through the board.
One mic.
Yeah.
So you're still gonna hear his amp.
Yeah.
Because some guys actually put a mic in front of the amp.
That's what we do.
That's what we do,
with the guitars. Our bass player goes direct from his bass rig right into the board with an XLR, but both of the guitar amps get mic'd.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. I just feel like, especially with people closer, they're mainly hearing it out of the amp, especially a place like the Twisted Fork where they got the overhead speakers and the speakers on the bottom and stuff. Especially like just playing through a big speaker setup, a lot of that kind of gets lost, but especially people in the front rows, if you got a giant amp, they're hearing it straight out the amp, so I feel like that's
well, and that's the funny thing too. You got to know the room, right? That the Harry Joyce, and as a bass player, you know this, right? You don't bring your 4x12 full stack to every gig. Some venues are music venues that want loud and have the crowd, and some venues are restaurants that want a band.
Sometimes we take the amps off the stage, bro.
Yeah.
We're going through preamps into the board.
Yeah.
And if you don't have ears, you're screwed.
Yeah.
And you have to. They're like there are certain venues where you have to be like that. Like I understand that when you play Vegas and you're doing some of the casinos, they're really adamant about sound and volume.
Yeah.
So I got 3 things, and we're gonna wrap it up. I want to talk about the future. I want to talk about the short term and the long term future. What does the future have in store for the Champ Jaxon band?
Well, short-term future, we got a good summer run planned. We're going to Biloxi, Mississippi, Ground Zero Blues Club, playing up there 4th of July weekend. So that's always great venue, great food. That's a real great spot. And
Morgan
it's
Freeman's
Morgan
club.
Freeman's
Yeah.
club.
Cool.
Yeah, and so we're going up there, and then we're coming back, right?
Coming back, and then you're going to
Yeah,
Europe.
and then
for
I'm
a
going
week.
to Europe for a week.
The player to like just to travel.
Just to travel. It's my first time ever going out of the country. I've
Cool.
never been, so you're gonna go to an Oasis concert, which I'm not the biggest Oasis fan, but it's more just an excuse to go to the UK and just go travel. And then we're still working on it a little bit, but I'm probably gonna fly from London back to Florida, spend the night here, and then fly to St. Louis the next day, and then we're gonna meet up at the airport somehow. We're figuring it out. But then we got that show in Jacksonville, Illinois, which isn't that far. It's an hour or two from
hour and
St.
a half.
Louis.
Yeah.
So is it safe to say in the summertime when school's out, you'll do these traveling trips and
Yeah,
whatnot, and then
yeah.
kind of stay closer to home during?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's mainly the model we followed the last couple of years. We'll take 1 or 2 little trips in the summer. We've gone. This will be our 3rd time going to Illinois and Wisconsin. We do Biloxi. We've gone to Myrtle Beach, Nashville.
What's the
Asheville,
biggest
North
show you've ever
Carolina.
done so far to date?
It's got to be that seafood festival.
Well, that was probably the
Seafood
biggest
Festival.
crowd.
Yeah.
It was the Everglades Seafood Festival a couple years ago. But then when you were on the Clearwater Jazz Holiday
Yeah.
billing with Government Mule and those bands, that was probably the biggest billing. Maybe not the
Yeah.
biggeth crowd, especially when we
Yeah.
played early in the day, but
Yeah.
that was the biggest.
Now, how do you get those gigs? Are they reaching out to you, or are you calling them?
It's a little of both. That particular, the Clearwater Jazz Fest, they reached out to us. We were actually in South Carolina on the road and got a call that morning, and everybody freaked out. But I do a lot of targeted, sending emails out to prospective venues. We people, you'll run into people at shows, or somebody will leave a comment on Facebook, play here. I know so-and-so, or you'll get messages. And then a lot of it is, we look at where other bands are playing. That band's kind of in our popularity level, kind of in our genre, style, whatever. Their schedule looks like this. Would any of those places be a fit for us?
So are people still asking you for a press kit? Because you know what bothers me when I'm an established band with a following, and I'm still getting my balls busted because they need to see a proper video in a certain format.
Yeah.
And I'm like, listen, lady, just go to Facebook.
Just go to Facebook or
exactly.
YouTube. We still have one. I'm actually in the process of getting one updated right now. We have some good footage from some recent shows. As much as he's growing right now as a teenager, all of that photos from 3 months ago aren't any good anymore.
Yeah.
And things like that. And we're working on some new merch designs and things like that. But yeah, there are still venues that want it. I try to keep one on the website. Have one page that's just the press kit. So whenever they need it, I just send them that hyperlink.
So, as you know, there's a lot of Betts and Almond stuff around here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Still a lot of families that are
Yeah.
connected. Wouldn't it be cool if you guys got to open up for Tedeschi Trucks? That would be like a freaking amazing show for you guys.
It would absolutely
Yeah.
be fantastic.
And do you already have in your mind like what you would do? Like there's certain originals that you say, well, you have to play these. Like these are like, you
Yeah.
have that A list.
I mean, yeah, I feel like
What's your best original that you're most proud of?
Born in the Grove. It's got to be. It's the title track. And we got the music video. And we got the merch for it, and it's the title track off the album. Open that up, and we got
some goodies for
got
you
some
here,
goodies.
Kurt,
Oh, that's for me?
before we finish.
That's
up.
for me? Thank you so much.
That's the debut album.
Wow.
yeah.
That we recorded down in Farmadelica Studios in Pine Island in 2021.
That's so funny.
And
I mean, you're so much taller now. I mean,
I know.
like
it looks like a baby, right?
no, but it's like it's
Chopped
cool.
all my hair off too.
Yeah. No, I mean,
Yeah. Didn't have braces.
it's the evolution, right?
Yeah. I bet my feet would touch the ground on that.
Yeah, I
on
was
that
listening to
little
this
lamp.
on the car up here. I was listening to this, man. I was very
Yeah.
impressed with it.
Yeah, I mean, even just from then, I think we've doubled in music quality and whatever as a band, and I look.
Thank you very
back-
much, guys. Thank you.
Yeah. And obviously I'm proud of both of those, the live album and the studio album. But I look back at even the stuff we did at Capricorn, that was
2 years
2
ago.
years ago, and damn, we sucked.
Sure.
And
Well, those would be great watermarks for your career.
Exactly.
And,
Yeah,
and,
no, I'm sure Joe Bonamassa could tell you the same story.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or Derek. Even.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's, you talk about the short-term future. Tell me about the long-term future. 2026, 2027. Where's this going?
Well, I feel like as I grow and as the band grows, we're gonna continue to play local shows, obviously, but just to keep going and just kind of go with the flow. Like the entire time we've kind of done this whole thing, it's never we've never tried to force it, and like he talks about that a lot and whatever, and it's all about taking when we get reached out to, and if we're like how it happened with the Milwaukee Brewers when did the national anthem. We were already going up to Wisconsin, and he called, and some sweet old Midwestern lady answered the phone for the Milwaukee Brewers, their PR department or whatever, and we had talked to him, and eventually got in contact, got higher up in the system, and ended up doing the national
Now,
anthem.
did they make you audition, or they just did you sight unseen?
We sent a video of him doing it with the Atlanta Braves right over here in Wellham Park.
So you've sung it before then?
Played it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, so
Hendrix style kind
Gotcha.
of. Yeah. So we sent them that tape, and the Brewers, like he said, we were going to be there anyways. So they picked a game, and he got to play the national anthem before. It was 25,000 people or something.
That's very cool, man.
Yeah.
That's very cool.
Yeah, and then they had him back last year, and Rick
Another milestone.
Yeah,
Yep.
and it's really neat that some of my favorite things when played with the Marshall Tucker Band. Obviously, they're a great influence in Southern rock, and you were only 10 then, right?
Yeah.
How many songs did you play?
So I had played "Can't You See" with them. We had gone to the ranch.
The Ranch in Fort Myers.
Yeah, Fort Myers. And they were playing, and we had actually entered a contest, and the contest was submit a video of your band or yourself playing "Can't You See," and so we had submitted the video, and it was for like a signed tambourine and a meet and greet with the band or whatever, and so they had liked it, and we ended up getting tickets to the show and got to meet the band before the show, and he had brought my guitar. I left it in the back of the car.
Just in case.
Smart.
And it ended up working out, and I ended up playing "Can't You See" with them.
Another milestone.
Yeah, that was great. And then that was about 6 or 7 months later.
Not even.
Not even.
2 months later.
2 months later
yeah.
or something. Yeah. We had gotten a call that they were playing in Alabama, opening up for the country band Alabama, and they wanted me to play and fill in for their guitar player. So
It's a whole show?
whole show.
Oh my gosh. So
Yeah.
did you have to a lot of studying?
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
Yeah, you had
immediately.
You had 2 weeks, I think,
Yeah.
to learn
Yeah.
7 or 8 songs.
how did it go?
It was a little rough. There was some moments, but overall it went great. Meeting everybody on the band, and it was real fun.
Hey, does your mind just get blown? Like, Nate, like, are you like some of this stuff? Are you like sometimes like, oh my gosh?
It's really, we joke amongst the band and family, you can't make some of this stuff up. It's stranger than fiction, and it's really it's just wild, some of the things that happen, and it really, there's guys that have been musicians their whole, adult life, been doing it for 30, 40 years, right? That don't have some of those milestone sort of things, and we don't take any of it for granted. I don't, as his father. I realize how special the journey we're on is, and my big job is to try to keep him humble. He's still got to clean his room and help with the yard. He was out sweating mowing the yard the other day, and do your homework and all those things. But we realize it is a special thing, and I don't take any of it for granted. And
does faith play into your music?
Yeah, I mean, I guess we're not really religious by trade, but I believe there is kind of a higher power that guides all of us, whether you want to break that down in denominations or not. And I kind of I think we all have certain paths in our lives, and some people never find them. And I think Champ has been lucky to find something he's gifted at and really enjoys at a young age. And so we knew from a young age he was a special kid, and whatever he decided he was going to do was he was going to be special at, and it's just really neat that it's been music.
I think that sometimes musicians are born, they're not made. I really believe that. And I think, like, I was talking to a lot of drummers on the show, and they're all like, yeah, you have to have rhythm. Like, you don't, you have to have it. You just can't acquire
you can't learn
it. You can't buy
it. Yeah. Well, I think when we say this all the time, especially when there's younger kids at the show that are really enamored or awestruck by what Champ's doing, so you're right about rhythm and talent is a real thing. Some people can't get their fingers to do certain things or rub their belly and pat their head like you have to do playing drums. But you can largely overcome that as well. Champ has a really good ear just naturally and can figure things out by listening. And
good pitch.
And I had to train my ear, and still, there's a lot of times where it's more muscle memory and practice. But
you know what's funny? The more you listen to records and you play along as a kid,
the easier it gets.
And then you realize, okay, I know what a D sounds like now.
Yeah.
So when I have to sing harmony, I can automatically go into the D because I know where it is. That took a while for me to get that.
Yeah, and everybody has their kind of their home base, right? That comfort spot, and then if I know I'm here, now I can branch out from there. That's how I think a lot of us are on the fretboard, right? There's some comfort area, and you go, okay, I'm in this key, so if I go here, now I know how to connect it all from here or whatever, right?
What's your favorite key? Like if you had to pick one key.
I mean, I like,
especially when you write songs.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like E is probably the easiest to just do anything in. It's obviously, you can play a lot of open stuff, and the most stuff just kind of branches out from it. And there's just, I feel like, to do like an E blues or whatever, just that little box up, at the top of the fretboard is just the easiest.
Yeah, I always gravitate to F sharp for some reason.
F sharp.
Yeah.
I like B. Nobody likes to jam in B, but I like B.
Yeah.
Okay, so in our final minutes, two things. How can people find you and where you're going to be? Like, how do they know the next coming shows, right? And then how can they download your music?
So we have all our music on any platform you can get music. We got Apple Music, Spotify, YouTube Music, Amazon Music. Anywhere you can listen to something, we got it. You can.
So people can buy it and download it.
Yeah.
Now, do you guys are getting any royalty on that? Is it small? Is it significant?
Yeah.
How does that work?
So the best thing to do for us and any other musician is to go and buy the physical CD or vinyl if they have it.
Okay. So how would you do that?
You can do that for us right on our website, www.champjaxon.com. There's a link there to purchase that. The downloads and the streaming is great, but from a revenue standpoint, it's one of those things where you have to be in the top earners to really be making money. I think we get 0.03 cents per download or per stream or something like that, right? So one $10 CD at the show or online is equivalent to like 5,000 streams.
So you have somebody doing merch on
yeah, most shows we have merch and then we have it available online. We're actually revamping our online store and adding some new designs right now. So there'll be some new information up there probably by the time this airs. And then but we the streaming, it's available. There's a little bit of royalties, but there's not enough traction. I think we have a couple thousand monthly listeners where we're not shopping for Maseratis and Lamborghinis just yet.
You have fans from Europe and other countries.
Yeah,
isn't that kind of neat?
It's really neat. You go, you can go on some of these things. We use DistroKid for our digital platform distribution. You can go in and see where all these people are listening, and it's really cool to follow. We've been on some German blues radio stations.
You know my buddy Sean Chambers?
We know Sean.
Yeah, he's going to be on the show.
Yeah,
eventually. He does a lot of stuff in Europe, and they love him. They go gaga over him.
My parents. I've been following Sean for probably 25 years or
great
so,
guy.
And he's a really good guy.
Perfect.
Yeah,
beautiful,
they're great folks. Like Sean a lot.
What about Trey Vanzig?
Yeah, Wenvig, something like that. We're familiar with him. We've never shared a bill or played with him, but I know he's a little old. He's probably 20, 21 now, something like that. Maybe he's right in that age, maybe not quite that old, but yeah, it's a very talented player, good player. We've seen, I saw him open for Damon Fowler somewhere. I can't remember exactly where, but rooting for him. And there's there's a lot of
good blues guys around here.
Yeah.
Of different ages.
Yeah, it's neat. There's a little band we opened that opened for us at Twisted Fork a couple weeks ago. They're more country leaning, but all, 12, 13-year-old kids. They've been playing for about a year or so. And and it was really humbling and flattering. The one kid said, "Oh, kind of the reason why we got this whole thing started is we saw Champ a couple of years ago, and it kind of inspired us." And so anytime you can hear something like that, it's just really, really neat. And we feel like, all these kids, there's we hear about, the Taj Farrant, who's kind of a world famous kid, and he was on Ellen and did all these other things, and he's really blown up, and he's very, very talented. And there's all these other kind of young up and coming kids, and music's not competition, right? That's the beautiful thing. There's not a scoreboard. I guess you can look at the charts or how many downloads or albums you're selling or something, right? But we view it, especially with the younger generation, music's dying, right? Everything's digital. Everything's got touch pads and keypads and DJs and things like that, where there's not a lot of kids his age that are into live music and rock and roll music. So the more kids that are picking up guitars, our buddy's Candace Cigarette that we play with in Wisconsin, right? The more kids that are picking up guitars and playing live music, the better it is for everybody. The more
I agree 100%. So I'm going to end the show with this quote that I heard. Champ Jaxon represents the future of music, and the future's in great hands.
That was from Billy Day at the beginning of that show,
That's
right?
right.
And again, that's a very humbling statement.
It's a great quote.
And Champ's going to take it as far as he wants to, and we're just here to support him and help him chase his dream, whatever that may be.
Fantastic. Well, everybody can go to champjaxon.com. They can see the schedule and they can buy the merch. I'm assuming it's Champ Jaxon on Facebook and social as well.
All of that as well, yeah.
And I'm going to try to get out as soon as I can to come see you guys, for sure.
Right,
awesome.
sweet.
And I want to thank you both for coming on the show. It's been a real pleasure. We actually went long today, and it was great because it was flowing, man.
Yeah,
It was flowing. So, Nate, thank you.
Thank you,
Champ,
K-Rock.
thank you. And I guess we'll see you soon.
Yes, sir.
Sweet.
All right.
All right, keep rocking.
Bye-bye.
Yep.
Today's episode is brought to you by The Twisted Fork. Eat, drink, and enjoy.